Have you ever felt stretched, overwhelmed, and exhausted by life? Are you stressed out by your work, family responsibilities, and just life in general? Are the demands and expectations you've put on yourself, and yes, others, just too much? Well, if you said yes to any of these, then it's time you take a breath, grab your favorite smoothie, chai tea, or dark roast coffee, snuggle into your favorite blanket, and join us as we share our stories on how to lose the guilt, work smarter, and thrive. That's coming up on See Hear Love.
You are seen, you are heard, you are loved by God. You're not alone, you're fully known, you are loved by God.
Well, welcome to See Hear Love. I'm your host, Melinda, and I'm so glad that you've joined us. And I hope you've grabbed your favorite chai tea, your dark roast coffee, and your tea, and you are snuggled up in a blanket, because this is going to be a great show, and especially with these women that I have with me who are going to talk to us all about their stressed out lives and how you are managing it. I love how you're clapping. My stressed out and overwhelming life. Welcome.
The word stressed out, but anyway.
Welcome. And I'm so glad, because that takes courage to be able to really be authentic and honest about your life. So I want to do some introductions. First of all, I have Judith. Welcome, Judith McCartney. So you are a mom to two kids, both in university?
One just finished,
Okay.
and the other one's finishing up.
Okay, you're a pastor. You've just co-founded a not-for-profit. You just completed your master's. You're an empty nester, but you are busy.
Yes, and I'm
And
also,
a wife to call.
Yes, and I'm also working on my ordination. So today's topic is very relevant for me. Yeah.
Good, well, welcome.
Thank
So
you.
glad that you're with us.
Good to be here.
Good. Okay, beside you, Andrea Schwartz, mom to two teens. God bless you.
Yes.
That needs a lot of prayers.
Yes, it
A
does.
7-year-old,
Yeah.
and you're a pharmaceutical executive who travels a lot for work.
Correct.
So you are busy.
Very
too.
busy, yes.
Wow. The teenager thing I have, I get, because I have now a 13-year-old and a 15-year-old, and that's a whole new season.
It is.
So I feel you, sister.
Yep, it's a lot.
All right, good. Welcome as well.
Thank you.
All right, Trish Herrera. Okay, a 1-year-old, a 3-year-old, a 5-year-old,
And one on the way.
and a 1 on the way.
Hey.
And you are a teacher and an artist.
Yeah,
You sound extremely busy.
I'm sure it's a different busy. I feel maybe that I'm less busy now hearing those introductions, but
Really?
well, busy with different things.
Yeah, lots
Yeah.
of kids, but I'm
Yeah.
glad that you're here with
Yeah,
us.
thank you so
so much. And Dr. Mary Lynn, welcome.
Thank you.
Mom, psychologist, launching a new podcast. You've got you have a daughter
Adult
working,
children,
adult children,
yeah.
and you're launching a new podcast and a new book. Is that coming up too? So you are very busy as well.
Yeah.
So you guys have a lot to say, I know, about being stressed, overwhelmed, and stretched to the max. All right, well, I want to just ask this before we get into news and views, but talking about moms and everything, favorite part of being a mom? What would you say? Favorite part of being a mom?
Growth, seeing growth in my kids.
Yeah.
And also seeing growth in myself, because there's a real swing that goes on in every season change.
Yeah, so growth, that's good.
I love seeing who my kids have grown up and will continue to grow up to be.
Yeah.
I mean, you get the little gift of these little tiny bundles, and you have all your dreams and desires and thoughts, and some of them healthy, some of them less healthy. And as I've learned to let go and just seeing what the Lord does in their life and just who they become, and for me having to intentionally actually enjoy every aspect of it, because the growing
Absolutely.
cannot always be that comfortable,
Yeah, that's good.
and there can be tension in it too.
See who they're becoming.
Yeah.
For me, I love, I have 3 kids, as you know, and just how each one is unique, and each one is very different, and it's just a privilege to be their mom and watch them grow up and see the people they become. And they start off one way, but they end up another, and it's just a joy to watch the journey and go along with them. So I love it.
Agreed.
Yes.
Totally agree. Yeah.
I think I would echo these things. I mean, I don't have teenagers, so I don't know what that looks like yet. But I do have this sense that I'm part of this very beautiful creative activity of God.
Oh, that's
even
nice.
When
Yeah.
you're pregnant, you're just participating with His vision,
Yeah.
and it's an honor. So I'm thankful for that.
That's
Yes.
good. And I would agree with all of you. I think seeing, when I met, my bonus kids, stepkids, and then seeing them grow and what that looks like for a blended family, there's been a lot of growth in me. I think kids, I love being a mom because it's actually not just seeing them grow, but also seeing me grow.
Absolutely.
And seeing my husband Chris grow with them, which has been good. So thank you. Awesome thoughts. Let's go to our news and views really quickly. I want to just share a few things and then get your thoughts about this news and views today.
Okay.
So in this 2019 article from the McKinsey & Company and leanin.org, Women in the Workplace, the report found that women with a partner and children are 5.5 times more likely than their male counterparts to do all or most of the household work, even when the women are the primary breadwinners. Wow. Now,
Some controversy.
yes. And in a New York, and in a New York Times article from 2018, this is just, there's a stress gap between men and women. Here's why it's important. It states the problem is housework is often overlooked as work, even though it's often as laborious, or in some cases more so as any paid job. And women also carry a lot of emotional labor, which goes unnoticed, which can cause chronic stress, anxiety, and heart health.
Right.
Initial thoughts, because that is actually a report. That's news. And as moms, what are your thoughts about that? So that you actually carry most of the household work, and you also carry a lot more emotional labor that goes unnoticed. Things that are just things assumed that you should do. Initial thoughts.
I mean, I joke about with my husband, and I'll say, like, do you notice the shampoo has miraculously appeared after the other one was over?
Right.
Yeah.
I don't think in my family, my husband intentionally wants to do less in the house. He just doesn't notice. And I notice things and I want to get them done, and I want to get them done now. So I can either nag him or tell him and ask him to do it, or I can do it myself.
Yeah.
And the things that matter to me are very different from what things that matter to him. He's very focused on the outside, wants to make sure everything works properly, whereas for me it's about the home, the environment, the food that we feed each other, the relational times, the connections. It's so.
Do you agree with? Do you agree with this stat?
Yeah.
I agree with it, and I think there's been generational gender roles, but in this generation, I'm seeing with my husband and friends and my children that it's more of a communal act in the household. Who wants to do what?
So real partnership.
Yeah, we do it as a community now.
Right.
It's changed.
Yeah.
So I have a bit of a unique situation because my husband actually works for the City of Toronto as a firefighter, and he does shift work. So he's home a lot. I'm so blessed. But even with his help and support, I still struggle and feel stretched too thin, and it's more on the emotional side. And she
Like
talks
the emotional
about,
labor.
She talks about the mental load a lot, and that mental load. So sometimes I'll be having one of those days, and it's just everything's going on in my head, all the things you have to do, and my husband just says, like, just tell me, like, what's going on, like, what do we need to get done? And if I sit down and take the time to do it,
It has to be true. You hear a lot about the mental load of motherhood. I think too, we're just able to mentally multitask so much. So I don't think it's necessarily that men don't care, they don't want to help. It's just all of those details are not swirling around my husband's head in the same way they're swirling around mine. So I can communicate what I'd love him to help me with, and he does really well. But if I think that I'm invincible and I can just do all of those things, I mean, I've lived the crashing of what that looks like.
it just explodes, I find.
Yeah.
I think it's just once a month, I'm like, woof.
Yeah,
Like,
but these
let
are
it all
good
out.
thoughts. We got lots more. We have lots more. But when we come back, we're going to talk about our own stories of feeling overwhelmed, stretched too thin, and stressed at home and work in our relationships, and the things we are doing or hoping to do to help us manage our stress. That's what we're going to talk about. But first, I'm so thankful for this woman, Jessica Turner, who wrote this book, Stretched Too Thin, How Working Moms Can Lose the Guilt, Work Smarter, and Thrive, and who came to our studios to encourage us. That's coming up.
You know, I think so often we think about what we should be doing based on what we're seeing on social media and what we see other families doing. And just because that's good for that family that weekend or in that season doesn't mean it's the right thing for you to do right now. And I think that can be hard. I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves based on the highlight reels we're seeing from other people's lives instead of what really makes sense for our own families. I don't think that we should feel guilty for working. It is what the majority of moms today do, is work, is bring in an income for their families. It's necessary. And so I don't think it's something that we should feel guilty of. I think that we should feel proud that we're contributing to our families in that way, that we're using our giftings and talents that way. I know for me, I'm a better mom when I'm away from my kids for a few hours every day and doing something that really lights me up, that I'm not able to use those same giftings at home. And so I don't think that's something that we should feel guilty for. I think it's something that we should be proud of about our strength and our ability to contribute to our families in that way. I don't think balance is really a thing. Mark Kelly writes in his book that really we should look at life as having satisfaction instead of balance. And that has been a really good word for me to think about. Am I satisfied in my work, in how I'm contributing to my family, in our family life, in my marriage, and how I'm taking care of myself? And if I'm satisfied in all of those things, even if those things time-wise might be not balanced, I think that's good. Now, if we're feeling unsatisfied in one of those areas, whether it's that we're not satisfied in our work, or we're really feeling overwhelmed at home, or we're feeling like we're not getting enough time with our kids, or our marriage has kind of been on autopilot, well, then that's time for us to say, you know what, maybe we should be doing something different. Right, I think we put a lot of unnecessary pressure on ourselves to do everything, and we just don't have to do everything. You know, my sister played volleyball, and I promise you that she doesn't remember what game my mom was at and what game she wasn't. She doesn't remember. Like, but what she remembers is a mom who was present, right? And I think that's true for whatever the thing is that your kid is doing, that you don't necessarily have to be at everything to be a good mom.
Check out the See Hear Love podcast and get the backstory. Get the inside scoop on real issues and real answers on common challenges we all face in relationships and in life. Find See Hear Love on Apple Podcasts.
Well, we're back with these amazing women talking about our stressful lives and feeling overwhelmed, but also I know later on we're going to talk about tips on how to manage our stress. So let's start with Mary. We're going to run through really quickly. Give me a quick snapshot of what a typical overwhelming or max day looks like for you.
Okay, well, that's yesterday.
Okay.
I woke up too early because I'm still on jet lag from our trip. Tried to be like really spiritual and read my Bible and all that. Have to admit, it was probably done on the run. And I got myself to my office, and I basically had back-to-back appointments, supervision, seeing clients. Wow. And then at the end of the day, I had a dinner organized for my birthday, and I ended up running late for that because I got trapped behind this gate that wouldn't open for me. So all of that is creating stress for me. Yeah. It's not that I wasn't managing it. It was the thought that there was people waiting for me. I'm disappointing them. The inner dialogue that does it. End up after dinner, coming home. Husband's home after his meeting, and he's like, oh, and he wants to talk about how my day was. And I'm like, I'm middle of trying to write some notes here. Can we talk later? So all that to say, it was a day that I felt my mind was whirling. I was able to get through the day, but I didn't feel like I had any pockets of time to just even think about the day. Yeah,
some like a bit of like sort of like you time or some margins in it. It was just like go, 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 go. Yeah, with work and things, work and party, but also yeah. All right, Trish.
Well,
typical day.
Typical day. My husband's up with the kids. He lets me sleep a little bit because I'm pregnant. We're doing breakfast, and trying to get toddlers dressed is enough to put me into a stressful spin. Get them all fed and snow gear on.
Oh yeah.
Out the door, buckling them into the car. They're crying. The 1-year-old doesn't want to sit in the car seat. We're going to drop off my eldest at school, and then we're always off to some sort of play event. Back home for naps, lunch, pick child up from bus stop, dinner, bath, bedtime.
Wow.
And I'm spent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot. So again, no margins for you.
Sometimes I can carve them out, but on a typical day,
not usually.
it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Wow.
Yeah.
Whew.
Okay.
Yeah, that made me like stressed out a little bit there.
No, I'm getting stressed
Okay.
listening to it.
Andrea.
So again, I think my situation's unique because my husband does shift work, so every week's different, and I travel a lot, and my schedule is different every week. So there's a lot of coordination that goes on the weekends to plan for the week, and it adds a lot of stress. You know, who's going to take care of the kids in the morning? Who's going to feed them, get them to bed? So from that perspective, no day is ever the same. And, you know, some days I'm there, some days he's there, some days neither of us are there. So it's a lot of coordination, Like one day at a time,
That's right. Yeah, good, Andrea. Okay, Judith.
Okay, my life consists of me, staff, congregants, events. My church runs out of my house, so I am the professional cleaner. But let me tell you something. What gets me usually is the mental stress of not fulfilling the ideal that I have. So the ideal is wake up, work out, eat smart, meditation, my time with God, and then I go into my workplace. Okay, it's hard to do.
Yeah, I bet.
Because my list is probably full of 20 to 30 things to do a day. I don't know if you guys are like that, but I'm a high achiever and I have many things to do. So
it's a lot.
Sometimes
a lot of
there's that
responsibility.
margin.
A lot of
Yeah.
responsibility for people.
I agree.
And it sounds like that's all of us. There's a lot of responsibility that we have responsibility for ourselves, but it sounds like all of us have a lot of output for responsibility of people. Okay, quickly, what would you say is the biggest stress in your life currently? And if I removed that stress, what would your life look like? What is the biggest stressor? Biggest stressor.
My house.
House.
It's definitely my house.
So cleaning.
Yeah, just keeping up. It's not only that, but it's the food, it's the shopping, it's and I'm the type of person that I need my house to have order. It's more for my mental health than anybody else's, because I think my husband and the kids can kind of let it go, but for me, it's hard to function. I can't. I'm just like, I just need sanity. I need clarity, and my house is my biggest stress, I think, and it's probably the lowest on the priority. Yeah.
Interesting. Jessica Turner, the author who wrote this book, she said one of the things to help us sort of, you know, manage our life is to create a home that we love. And a lot of times a home is not what we love because it's all this responsibility, but we have to find those places to love it and not worry about it has to be spotless and clean, but that it's actually more about the love of family within it. So
Absolutely.
I totally get it.
Yeah.
Stressor,
And if you have an organized home, I think I would say the same thing.
Yeah.
It makes you more efficient.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have more time because you know where everything is and you have a plan. I would say right now and today, that's my biggest
home.
stressor.
So stressor for you is home, Mary?
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
do you?
It's my own head.
I agree.
I was just gonna say,
I agree.
I am such a social perfectionist, which means I want to handle every relationship, every social interaction perfectly. And you know the needs are greater than what I can provide, and I just naturally like to help people. So for me, the biggest stress is wrestling in my head. Should I do this thing? Should I do not that? Should I call this person? Should I answer this? And who am I going to pay attention to and minister to?
Oh, that's good. So home and then my own head and making those sort of like priorities of who should I connect with and what. Oh, that's good. I would agree with that for me too. Judith.
We're empty nesters. Our home is in order.
Nice.
Praise God.
Yeah.
But
Is that what happens when you're an empty nester?
know.
it's
You just
really
said,
cool.
Now I have
It's
more
really
time.
cool.
Yeah.
I can
So
walk
what-
down the stairs and look in my living room and say, wow, that's awesome.
That's how you left it, right? That's how you left it.
See
Nice.
you again.
I'm with you, Mary.
Yeah.
It's the mental boxes. I have too many.
We all do.
Okay, yes.
We all
I'm
do.
grateful for my husband. He's my #1 champion and the #1 organizer of all the boxes in my head. And
good.
he'll help me.
Yeah.
He gives me clarity on that.
Yeah, I like that. So it's good. So a lot about like physical, like the home and space, but also what's in our head.
Right.
Because I would say that too. I'm constantly thinking,
Absolutely.
and I can't take a break from a lot of times what's happening in my head, the things I'm
Yep.
thinking,
I agree.
you know, and all the
That's
things
what
that I have to
keeps me
do.
up at night.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
me
why I
too.
can't fall asleep at night.
That's why I'm working at night.
Yeah.
As my staff are like, "Yep, you're sending
have to
emails
shut it
way
down.
too late." I
Shut
know,
it down.
shut it down.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay. Those are good things and honest things. So thank you. So what do you think you need to do to lose the guilt of not being the superwoman of the world? One of the things I've been hearing a lot is women carry a lot of guilt that they're not doing things 100%. What do you think it would take for you to lose that guilt of saying, I don't have to be perfect?
Well, I reassure myself by saying, if I were perfect, my kids wouldn't need God. So to give myself grace to just be human,
Yeah.
and that in fact in my humanity and my less than, they actually need God. So, and I have to regularly talk myself through it because I do secretly believe I'm mini Holy Spirit, and somehow I'm supposed to do that. I'm here to convict you. So I think for me that has been really having to let go of that.
Right.
And I'm aware that I feel guilty, but I also have to recognize that guilt comes from my own internal insecurities and fears, and it's not actually real.
Yeah.
And it's also a lie of the enemy trying to keep me in this place of feeling trapped that I have no choice but to.
Right. Yeah. Just what you say. You're thinking. I can
Just
see that.
thinking, I'm like, what were the
How would
exact
you, how
words
would you
of that
lose
question?
the guilt? How do you lose guilt of not being 100% right on everything and perfect?
Well, I'm so guilty of living that and feeling the repercussions. So I think that where God has led me is what you said is identity, right? Like my identity is that I'm a child of God and I'm not perfect. And because of that, I need God's like endless resources of wisdom and strength. Just feeling like I can nestle up to the Lord and let him guide me. So really, for me, it's intimacy with God and the Holy Spirit. That's what allows me to let go of my incredibly high standards for everything that I do.
Yeah, I hear you.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree, because I think that's where we're talking about is that a lot of women and men feel guilty for not being like the best parent, sometimes the best employee, you know, the best person at the church, and so
best friend to
or
me.
best friend,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Andrew, what'd you say?
I try to figure out where the guilt's coming from, right? Like if I talk to a lot of women, I coach a lot of women, and a lot of times I think we're our own worst enemies, and we're always looking outward at how other women are doing it, but you don't know their story, you don't know what's going on. So for me, it's, you know, you try your best, and you really have to take care of yourself, and I think we don't do a good job at doing that, but it's where's that guilt coming from? Because there is an underlying root of it, and you know, God's created us the way we are, and we are imperfect mothers, imperfect people, but we are the perfect mothers to the children that we've been given, so yeah.
That's good.
The way I've been looking at it lately is thinking about what is my sacred legacy? What am I leaving behind? And I want it to be health, spiritual health, personal health. I have congregants, I have my children, I have my staff, and what I'm modeling has to be sacred because I want this to go on from generations, from me into other generations, and I want to leave that legacy of health. I don't want my kids to model a mom that is a high achiever and has to be perfect, and I'm okay with that.
That's good. You know, I love those thoughts, and if I was going to do sort of my own thought about it, you know, I do feel guilty that I'm not being a good wife to Chris, or that I'm failing at this whole blended family thing, and that I have not called some friends in a while. And I think it is that part of being like, I gotta just be okay. Like I cannot be all things to all people. And somehow women tend to take that on. And I think the biggest thing that you're saying is that, you know, with God and a great spouse, or being honest with, you know, yourself and with friends, there's some good accountability with that. That's like, it's okay. Last thought just about faith in Jesus, because I think that, you know, we want to lose the guilt, we want to thrive, we want to work smarter, all those things. But how does Jesus help you when life is stressful, when you're maxed out, when you're stretched too thin? How does practically the relationship with Jesus help you in that?
Well, I love what Trish said about the intimacy in the relationship. And I think if I can really know who I am as his daughter, and not just like generically daughter, but like uniquely daughter. How has he wired me? If I have that level of self-awareness, I know how he's wired me, I know what I'm passionate about, I know the things that I'm good at doing. If I can use those filters with his voice speaking through that to make decisions about what I will and won't do, then I feel like he's going to be able to say, well done, good and faithful servant.
Yeah, good.
For sure.
Yeah.
The center of everything for me is Jesus. And if that gives me peace, that really helps center me in my busiest days and in the days that I'm just having a difficult day. I have to see that as my center, and that's what gets me through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
For me, it's just, I know, when I come home at the end of the day and I've been all on at work and very intentional, and I get home and I'm exhausted and I don't have much to give, I take a few moments in my car and I just pray, God, help me to be intentional and give me the grace when I walk through that door to be that same person I am at work or at church or with my friends. And that's what really grounds me, because I think as busy working moms, we have a lot going on. We need to be really intentional when we walk through that door. It's our #1 priority, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think we forget that. So I'm constantly, when I'm having those days, I'm like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can walk through that door. There's so much to do. My brain's going, the mental load's going. It's just, I take a moment and just breathe and walk through the door. Yeah.
That's so nice.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I think sometimes as women we feel like we're in charge and we're responsible for everything. And it's actually not true. Like, God's in charge. God is responsible. We submit ourselves to Him, and it's His amazing plan that we get to live. So the weight is lifted, and then we can enjoy our lives as we follow Him, and instead of just worrying about being perfect, our own gods, our own little gods.
That we're not supposed to be the savior Messiah for everybody.
No, that's right. It's not our
Somebody
job.
else has that job.
I know, I was slipping into it. Yeah, exactly.
Thank goodness, right?
Thank God.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your thoughts. I loved those. Well, let's go to co-host and Bible teacher Joanna now, as she shares from Mark 1:35-38, as she points us to the example of Jesus and how He lived His life with intention and purpose and rest.
Thanks, Mel. This episode, an important conversation about being stretched too thin, trying to balance ourselves and give ourselves permission, really, to care for ourselves so that we can care for other people. It's an important conversation, and I think especially for women, it's not something that we're quick to do because there's a lot of other people, especially if you're a mom, there's so many other people who are relying on you to care for them. It was no different for Jesus. He had the same situation. He wasn't a mother, but in many ways he was caring for all of these people around him, and they expected things from him, and they were looking for things for him. And in Mark chapter 1, it shows how Jesus handled this. In verse 35, it said, very early in the morning, while it was still dark, Jesus got up, left the house, and went off to a solitary place where he prayed. Simon and his companions went to look for him, and when they found him, they exclaimed, everyone is looking for you. And Jesus replied, let's go somewhere else to the nearby village so I can preach there also. That's why I've come. I love this. Jesus sneaks away early in the morning, is finding time to pray and be alone with the Father. He intentionally leaves the group. They're so much so that they don't even know where he is. They're frantically looking for him. And then he's not swayed or persuaded by this everybody needs something from you information that he receives. He says, okay, well, that's fine, but I know what I need to do. I know what I'm called to do in my life. I know exactly why I'm here, and I need to go on to the next town. That's the kind of clarity you get when you spend time alone with the Lord, when you are sure of who you are and your identity in him because you've actually spent time taking care of your relationship with him. I know in a season of burnout in my life, that was one of the first things that I identified that was the problem. I had no downtime with the Lord, no time to be resting and quiet and alone. So I hope this whole conversation that we're having on the show today is encouraging you that it is important and not selfish to be clear about the kind of things you need to take care of yourself so that then you can go out and take care of others, just like Jesus. Back to you, Mel.
Well, thank you so much, Joanna, for your thoughts from the good word. And thank you, Mary, Trish, Andrea, and Judith, for your thoughts as well. And I must say this, I was really honored to sit with you and listen. And thank you for your honesty about your life. And I'll be cheering you on and praying for you.
Thank you.
You are doing such great work in your family and in the places that you influence. So thank you for your presence in the world and with me now. So you guys will definitely have to come back. Promise?
Yes. Promise.
Okay,
yes.
Good. Thank you so much. And to you, our viewers and listeners, all I can say is this. If you're feeling stretched, maxed out, and overwhelmed, make some good decisions for yourself, like this. Make self-care a priority. Say no to more things that aren't really that important and say yes to things that are life-giving and fun. Surround yourself with healthy, life-giving people and make sure that every day you're connecting with God. Talk to him, be quiet with him, and ask him for help and guidance. And always know, as you live this life, you are seen, heard, and deeply loved by God. Bye-bye. Deeks Insurance is a proud sponsor of the See Here Love Studio.